Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, we're back with you here for another edition of Radio Free Los Angeles. Mike Alexander here, president of the California Taxpayers Union, and oh boy, are we taxpayers. And that's maybe the only thing that unites us here in America is the fact that we pay taxes and lots of them. I'll tell you, and my other Goomba here is Jonathan Wilson, back again from his second week from Kentucky. Have you sobered up yet?
Just about.
I want to go back to Kentucky and take part of that tour back there.
Oh, yeah, the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah.
You and I should do that sometime.
We should.
We'd have a good time.
Yeah, we'll do a remote broadcast on the Bourbon Trail.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it'd be fun. We've got a good show for you here tonight. When you call yourself the Taxpayers Union and you have a show about taxes, you will never run out of material in Los Angeles County. And tonight we're going to emphasize a couple of three things, go into some detail. First of all, you need to know that the government never rests, particularly the thieving SOBs who are there to tax you all the time. And in particular, I want to point out the fact that tomorrow night at the Pasadena City Council, if my information is correct, and it's only as good as the internet, excuse me, the Pasadena City Council will vote whether to put on the November 18 ballot an initiative for approval by Pasadena citizens to increase the sales tax 0.75%. So that means that in the city of Pasadena, where the tax on your meal, your car, the products you purchase at the hardware store, the car you lease, you name it, it's going to go up from an already expropriative, outrageous 9.25% to 10.25%. And that is outrageous. Now, I want you to break this down. Here's what it means for the family of four. For the family of four, I don't know what the average amount of taxes paid by the family. It's a lot, but we know one recent calculation is by the Stop the Gas Tax increase initiative, which is also on the ballot in November of 18. But they calculate that just the increase that the California legislature passed last year, just the increase in gasoline taxes and licensing fees amounts to over $750 per year for a family of four. Now, that average family, once again, I'm not talking about something that just hits us old white people in Pasadena or Altadena or throughout California. We're talking about something that hits the average couple, and that average family in Los Angeles is probably a Latino family, certainly throughout the Central Valley and in many other places. And these families can't afford it any more than any other growing family can. That's $750 to $800 just in increased gas taxes. Now along comes the city of Pasadena, and I'll get into why they need this money in a bit. But they determined that the solution to their problems is to jack up the sales tax by 0.75%, which they think will generate $21 million per year additional revenue. And by the way, there's reasons why that may not come true, but I'll get back to that in a minute here. But they think it's going to generate $21 million. Now, on a $10,000 purchase, that additional 0.75% means that you got another $75. Now, that doesn't seem much. Isn't that what they always say? It's not much. But all totaled, if you buy yourself a $10,000 used car, you've got $1,075 that you're paying on that car in taxes. If you buy a $20,000 car, you're at $2,150. If you buy a $30,000 car, which is really not that expensive of a vehicle these days, and lots of SUVs get to that point that families buy to accommodate their house, their household, their family, all of a sudden you're at $225. This is what government does to you. Now, $75 per $10,000, add it all up, you're at roughly $225, $250, whatever it is. You do the math, and you add that to your gas taxes. All right, now the average family of four, if it happens to live in Pasadena, you've added $1,000 net expenses onto them. They don't get to deduct these things. It's another $1,000 out of the family's pocket. But wait, hold it. The state of California has a whole group of new initiatives going on the ballot. We'll cover those later, and that includes an initiative that would further increase gasoline taxes and further increase the license fees for the average family. I'm telling you, it just never stops. For a lot of you conservatives who are in my age group and economic group, it is not unusual to complain that so many people don't pay taxes in the state of California, and such a disproportionate number of us, a small number, disproportionately small number, pay the actual income taxes here in California and throughout the United States. I get that. But please don't fall entirely for that, because the average families, even people who get some money back from the feds in a so-called negative income tax, I forget what they call it, some working families reimbursement, that people get money back from the feds. I should know that, and I don't. But even those families are paying huge amounts of money in taxes. Remember, increased property taxes go into rent. Landlords don't pay taxes. Tenants pay most of those taxes, don't they? Now, ultimately, landlords have a limited ability to pass those taxes on. I know that. But generally speaking, landlords don't pay taxes. Tenants pay taxes. When you go to that restaurant and it's an additional sales tax, you're paying that. And I don't care if that person is on welfare. I don't care if it's a 10 or 15-year-old who goes in to make a taxable purchase for himself or for his family. He's going to pay that. It goes to a theater. They're paying taxes. Everybody's paying taxes, and these thieves know it. And the people at the Pasadena City Council are getting ready to do it to you again. Now, how many seconds do I have? 1 second. Huh? 1 minute. Well, I got 1 minute before we go. All right, so I just want to wrap up, and I'm going to come back to some of the details on that as to what the city of Pasadena is doing and why. But they're getting ready tomorrow night to stick you with another $20 million plus in taxes that's going to hurt business, hurt consumers, and line the bottomless pockets of public employees and government politicians. These people are just the worst of the worst of the worst. They're not on your side. Don't believe what they have to say. And when I get back here in a minute or so, I'll go into some of the details. This is Mike Alexander. Call us and be part of this conversation at 866-870-5752. All right, back with you, Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson. Jonathan, if they want to, remember this is listener-sponsored, taxpayer-sponsored free radio. If they want to support us, where do they go, Jonathan?
Go to CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org. We've got links to the Taxpayer Gazette there, and we've got links to Radio Free Los Angeles. And more importantly, you can join the union.
All right. Now, you can also, we have our camera working tonight.
Yeah, we're on Facebook Live.
Not that I'm worth seeing, but you're worth seeing. Now, you were telling me here earlier
Well-
that you went where yesterday?
Well, I have a funny story. I went to Supercuts up in North Pasadena on Washington to get a haircut. And they were really busy, so I sat down.
A haircut.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how much would you get? Just that looks more like a trim, not a
Actually,
haircut.
Mike, I got a lot cut off.
Oh,
so,
yeah. All right.
I've got to, cut my, do it incrementally.
Now,
So.
all right. Anybody's look on the camera. Look at my hair. This is a haircut. All right.
And you got your hair cut on Friday, I think, right?
Yeah, Thursday morning.
And you've been going to the same barber since you were 12?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Same guy. He's still alive.
Wow.
Right. Now, I don't trust him with a razor anymore.
So anyway, I'm at Supercuts and waiting to get my hair cut.
Uh-huh.
And there's a woman sitting next to me. Her daughter's getting her hair cut. Mm-hmm. And I keep looking at her, and she looks really familiar.
That's an old line, Jonathan.
Yeah. And so,
Don't I know you, honey?
I mean, at one point, I just kept looking at her, and she was like, what is this guy looking at? Mm-hmm. And so I finally said, you look really familiar. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, I just have one of those faces. And her son sitting with her said, that's not true.
Kid ratted her out.
And I said, you're on Fox News, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's the kind of one of the token liberals on Fox News.
Oh, man.
Leslie Marshall, really pleasant woman.
Yeah.
And so we talked a little bit, and she'd heard of the California Taxpayers Union.
Well, good. She's part of the bombing crew.
So I told her to tune in. So if you're out there listening, Leslie, thanks. It was nice running into you.
Yeah, we love you, baby. And you didn't try to drive her out of the barber shop.
No, I didn't think that was the appropriate place to talk politics.
No, it's not. And that's the point. I don't know what it was. Somebody, I was at the 4th of July event over in San Marino, one of the places that I've hammered hard, as you know. And one of my friends said, hey, your organization, Taxpayers Union, with all these taxpayers here, you ought to be doing this, that, and the next thing. And my reply was, I thought for a second, I said, this is the 4th of July. I think people are entitled to a day off.
Yeah.
I can get along with anybody for a day. We can pick up the argument another time. There'll be plenty of opportunities.
It's funny you say that because I was out to dinner last night in Pasadena at the luggage room, and this nice couple came up next to me, sat down at the bar next to me, and they had a big 4th of July party. And outside, I think they have 150 people come to their 4th of July party in San Gabriel. Uh-huh. And they have a sign when you enter the party, no politics.
That's right. What's striking about that is there's been such an effort on the part of the left to make the flag and the celebration of the 4th of July itself controversial and a partisan event, which I've never thought of as that way. Everybody's welcome. So many people come from so many different countries and so many different walks of life. That's America. It may not be a place where things are perfect, far from it, but at least we have generally, over the last 250 years, found a way to get along with each other, of course, accepting the Civil War. But I wish they wouldn't gin up this next one. Well, I want to get back onto the Pasadena City Council here and their plans, to rape the citizens for another $20 million per year by jacking the sales tax here up another 0.75%. And by the way, if any of you city council people or city mismanagers or any of the rest of you are out there and want to talk and tell me just how wrong I am and how unjustified my criticism. That telephone number is 866. It's toll-free. I know that's important for you government people that you don't have to pay for it. The number is 866-870-5752. So whether you agree or disagree with us, call and be part of the show. Now, why is it, what is this all about, this $20 million? First thing I want to mention, this would be interesting. Before I knew this was coming up tomorrow night, of course they do it on Monday night, middle of the summer, nobody's paying attention, people are on vacation, but Radio Free Los Angeles is on the job. We're watching you over there. This past week, I had occasion to call the city on client business. And when I was listening to the messages for one of these departments, in comes one of these messages. And this the recorded voice, I believe it was female, was talking about the recent crisis, and please call in to let us know. You know, we're struggling trying to maintain budgets and balance budgets and fiscal responsibility and assorted other propaganda nonsense. But the bottom line was, let us know, what's valuable to you so that we'll know what this is in case we have to make service cuts. So obviously the city has been planning this here for a long time. And I know because I was interviewed about this last January at least. It's been going on for a while. But what's very interesting is what the government does to justify this. So they go out there and they do polls. And these polls are sometimes called push polls. They ask questions which are designed to elicit a certain set of responses, and they ask the people in the city to help them prioritize the services. You know, that's what I thought we paid these mismanagers for, was to prioritize the services. But no, they want to stick the citizens with them. So they come up with all these questions. What are your priority services and so forth? So right at the top, preserving 911 emergency response times and fire paramedic services. Oh, yes, got to keep that going. Then keeping fire stations open and upgraded. It's amazing. All these taxpayers probably say, yeah, don't forget to upgrade those firehouses. Keep them open out there. And then third priority, addressing homelessness. Now, I'd like to know what addressing it means. The government people there probably think that the citizens want them to set up more homeless centers when, in fact, probably most of the residents want the bums off the street. But that's what they meant. But, they don't get to write the questions. They just get to answer them. Then you go on repairing streets and roads. Fourth priority. Hey, I thought that's what government was supposed to do to start with. What'd you do with the rest of the money, you people? Then maintaining vital health services. How in the hell did the city government ever get involved in maintaining health services? Why is it their business at all? This is insane. This is, like a liberal wish list here. These guys.
We got to get a recording of that and put it on our website.
Yeah,
and maybe we'll get it for next week and play it on the show.
Yeah, let's do it. You'd love it here. Supporting quality public neighborhood schools. The old schools hustle. We'll get into that one. Then finally, continuing and improving local science, math, and reading, classroom programs, and finally, sustaining after-school summer youth programs. So those are the priorities, and nowhere, I guess, is it lower taxes and smaller government was not on the question list. So you see them setting it up, and that I'm reading out of from page 4, section 1 of the Pasadena City Mismanagers recommended operating budget for fiscal 2019. So they're gearing up for this thing. So they go out there, they hustle the citizens, then they take that, they go back to the city council, they produce the report, and lo and behold, there is a groundswell of grassroots support for more taxes. Tax me more. Tax me now. You see what I mean?
Bizarre.
It is, and they paid money. You know that they paid money to survey the city. Nobody's telling us. If anybody knows a number for that, call in. You know where it is, 866-870-5752. So now, why do they really need the money? Why do they really need it? Well, anybody, you're going to say, Jonathan?
To keep the con going?
Yeah, to keep it going. You got it. It's all a fraud, a hustle, and a con. Now, what are they trying to do? Let's go back to basics. Every tax hereinafter should be known as a pension tax in California. Almost every single tax is being produced and required by the fact that they have a rising pension deficit. That is, they have failed to set aside enough money to pay the pensions for all of these bloated salaries and benefits for government people at every level, state and local, throughout our state, city, county, state, the whole bunch of them. And in the city of Pasadena, if any of you are going to that meeting tomorrow night, and if I have a few minutes, I might drop in as kind of an honored guest. See if we
bring your flask.
Let's go there. Hey, what's Sacha Baron doing tomorrow night?
Right.
We'll get him to go to the. That guy's lousy, but I can imagine something amusing coming out of him punking the Pasadena City Council. So let's go into their pensions. This is all about pensions, ladies and gentlemen. The Pasadena City has failed to set aside enough money for all of its employees. Already retired, and people are still on the payroll, but accruing benefits. Those total future benefits right now are calculated using the phony numbers put out by CalPERS. Are at $1.6 billion. That's the conservative number. And even based upon CalPERS' phony numbers, they have, right now, they are behind $391 million, almost $400 million. Now, it's more than that because these numbers here, the current ones, are only available through the end of 2015. So you can imagine these things are going up 3, 4, 5% a year. And CalPERS investment returns are not keeping track with their investment projections of 7.5%. Nobody believes that they're going to get an average of 7.5% over the next 30 years, which is what they're saying. In fact, if you apply a more reasonable discount rate with, say, an annual return of around 4% on the investments, you come up with an actual liability, pension liability, of $2.8 million. And after you subtract the current value of their assets on hand, the city of Pasadena probably owes $1.5 billion. Now you know why they need another $20 million. But I got news for you guys. That $20 million isn't going to get it. You guys should be thinking about shutting down major parts of the city. You need to get out of the pension business. You need to get the taxpayers out of the pension business. Now, bear in mind that what they're promising to do is to give 1/3 of it over to the Pasadena so-called school, so-called system. When we come back after this break, I'm going to talk to you more about the Pasadena school system and their role in this con. Be back. It's Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles, 866-870-5752. All right. And thank you, Basil Hoffman, for recording that intro. It may be the most professional thing that happens on the show on a given night here. So at any rate, when we started out tonight, you had, when we were doing our own personal show prep, you asked me a question. You said, "Hey, Mike, can we do some of the federal follies?" Now, what in the hell are the federal follies? Well, that's what I refer to. That's my general derogatory term for what characterizes most political news and talk radio in the country. It's all focused on what's going on at the federal level and the state and local thieves in the public employee unions and the taxing and spending monsters that run our cities, counties, and the whole state. They hide behind the average citizen's preoccupation with the federal nonsense and overlooking the fact that the states and counties and cities spend together as much as the federal government does. So if you're only focusing on the federal government and what goes on with Donald Trump in a given week, by the way, we support him here, but if you just focus on that, you are missing half of the problem. That's my point. It's not that the federal follies aren't important. They are desperately important, particularly because they involve foreign affairs. But we like to keep our focus here in the one area where not enough time is being spent, and that is the this level of taxation and regulation that has overtaken us at every level. But when we start out tonight, you had a question about this past week's events.
I was fascinated by the Peter Strzrok hearing last week, and I couldn't believe how arrogant this guy is.
Yes,
and I just don't think it served his purpose. I mean, I think if he had come out and been contrite and humble, I screwed up, but he really doubled down.
He did.
Saying that he did this because he's a patriot. Mm-hmm. You know, he wanted to protect America from Donald Trump.
Right.
And I can't figure it out. And why do you think he behaved that way?
Well, you know, everybody in the country has offered an opinion, and I won't reject any one of them. There are a number of good explanations for this guy. My second, not my first. I'll give you my second less edifying explanation, and that is that this guy, precisely because he was so arrogant and precisely because he knew all the news media would be gathered there and that he would have the opportunity, he didn't want to miss the opportunity to repeat every slur and every lie and every conceit and prevarication that he had to offer. But that's number two. The number one observation that I would make is that it's desperately important that that they never drop the con.
Right.
What's the con? I want to go back. I think I might have mentioned this here a few months back.
Well, yeah, I think we were talking about the Clintons.
Yeah, we were.
And they never dropped the con.
Never dropped the con. And,
you know what they remind me of real quickly? I was telling Marcy this week. You know the monster in the horror films that you think they're dead and they just keep coming back to life.
That's right. That's right. And you know, Hillary's out there this week saying, "Oh, I might be running again." But I'll get back to them in a minute. But what I'd like to direct your attention to, if you haven't seen it, I think it's on Netflix, or you might be able to download it for $1 or something like that. That's Dinesh D'Souza's documentary entitled, I think, Hillary's America. Mm-hmm. And in that documentary, Dinesh D'Souza weaves into it his own recent experience with having been prosecuted by the Obama administration for campaign finance peccadillos. By the way, he was pardoned by Donald Trump recently, but he recounted the fact that he had to go into a local detention center, federal detention center, and I can't remember if he was going in at night or just on weekends. Doesn't make any difference. He wasn't in there full time, but he began to to meet all kinds of different people who are otherwise members of the political class. And when he was in there, he learned something. He learned that the worst criminals are not in jail. Those are the ones that run our government at the very highest levels. But he also learned some things from them. And one thing in particular, he encountered this one guy who was in jail for insurance fraud. And what he and his ring had done was to go out and befriend usually an older man or an older woman, somehow get their lives insured, and then conspire to kill this person and collect the the death benefit. So these were very, very bad guys, but Dinesh D'Souza found himself transfixed by the casual way that this guy talked about the most terrible things and how the con had been discovered. And when he spoke with this guy, he asked this guy who had put together this ring, and he said, "Well, look, your con obviously failed. What do you do when you run?" He said it was maybe his third or fourth con that he'd been running. This is a bit of a career. What do you do when you get caught? It says, do you drop the con there? He says, look, when you're in the con game business, never drop the con, even when you get caught, especially when you get caught. Never drop the con. All right, everybody got it? Mr. Strzok, whatever this guy, genius's name is out there, this failed FBI agent, this guy is part of an elaborate con. And what's the con? Let's just get into it. The con is that somehow Donald Trump conspired with the Russians to steal an American election. Nobody's come up with anything. They've spent the last year and a half or 2 years trying to catch him. None of this stuff happened. But by him going on there at the same time that his pal Mueller is indicting a bunch of Russian hackers who are doing the same thing that our hackers do every day, doing the same thing that thousands of hackers are doing all around the world, but we never bother identifying the Chinese hackers by name for stealing our Department of Defense personnel records. We never bother going after French or Italian industrial hackers. We never bother going after Russian hackers for any reason, or the hackers from all over. But we managed to find a half a dozen or a dozen Ruskies who can never be brought into our jurisdiction over here. So they were keeping it up that somehow Trump was a bad guy with no evidence whatsoever. And I'll tell you, Mr. Mueller and all the rest of you people out there, I too have no idea what it is that Mr. Trump did. But all of you people are running around out there, and you're asking us to believe that somehow, some way, Donald Trump worked with the Russians or somebody else to steal our election. And what that means is that what we have here in the United States is a traitor in the White House. Now, if you have that evidence, you better bring it forth and get it out here right now. If you don't have the evidence, Mueller, then you need to pack it up and go home. But there is no excuse, prosecution or otherwise, no excuse for keeping the United States and our government hostage on tenterhooks for 2 years while you push this dog. If you got something, let's see it. If not, go home. And my point is that they don't have it. They're just keeping this con running for another month, another 2 months, another 6 months. This thing isn't going to be done by 2018. It isn't going to be done by 2020. This is what it was put in place for, and it's high time that our government people, from Trump to Sessions to McConnell, that worthless, vile, taxing SOB. It's time that all of them got hold of this and returned the government to its normal function. Get the hell out of us. And Strzrok was up there pushing this precisely because he doesn't want to drop the con, precisely because he has high confidence that no one is going to hold him accountable. So far as I know, this guy is still on our payroll.
Yeah. Taxpayers are still paying his salary.
He still is. Now, we got a little bit to go. I'll come back for a minute here. Then we get back to the city of Pasadena hustle. This is Mike Alexander, Radio Free Los Angeles, 866-870-5752. Back very shortly. All right, back with you here, Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles. And, we could sure use your support here. Hey, instead of asking you for more money like I was in government, let me first of all say the two words you never hear from government, but you should hear from me more often, and that is thank you. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for being part of it. Our numbers seem to be growing all the time. I get private communications from people, applauding us for covering the hard stuff that is so seldom covered. And in that, for the reasons that I discussed here just a few minutes ago, the tremendous size and scope of government, not just at the federal level, but at the state, city, and county level. I want to thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting us financially as well.
By the way, speaking of thanks, I'd like to give a shout out to my Uncle Brad in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. He made a contribution last week.
Oh, he did? All right. Hey, Uncle Brad, thanks. Was he sober?
That I don't know.
Was he at the family reunion?
No, that was my mom's side of the family.
Yeah, okay.
But my dad's brother made a contribution.
All right, well, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Uncle Brad. We appreciate it. And we get contributions for our activities from a lot of people who used to live in California and applaud our efforts. We want to support it. And for you to do that, you can go to radiofreelosangeles.net. That's all spelled out. radiofreelosangeles.net.
And join the union. Our membership is ticking up every day. We're getting new members, so
it is.
And explain to the audience, Mike, why they need to join the union.
All right. Thanks for that. We went over this last week. We're going to go over it. Let me just state very simply something that I think most of you know out there, and that is that the key to mostly Democrat, but let's just call it the growth of big government, which in our state it means one-party government. The key to the growth of that one-party situation and the corresponding loss of representation on the Republican side, which was never great, but at least we had some balance there. The reason for all of that is very simple. The public employees contribute a tremendous amount of money to their union, and the unions take those union dues, turn them around, make large contributions to the political process. They actually choose their employers. They go out there, help to elect people who are friendly to big government, who will sign their contracts, who will increase their benefits, who will tax the hell out of the average citizen in order to continue to grow government and to pay their outrageous salaries and benefits, even to the point of putting this state about $1.3 trillion in the hole on pensions. In other words, they will tax and spend and sell whatever they have to pay off the people who put them in office. It's as simple as that. And those dues collected from public employee unions, not all unions, I'm talking about public employee unions, those dues come to approximately $1 billion per year.
Right.
Yeah, and those
wait, that's in California.
In California. Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, those are just the California public employee unions. It's $1 billion a year. That's $20 a week on the average, 2% of salary.
That's a lot of money.
It's a hell of a lot of money. Now, Are you out there, the average taxpayer, if you're listening to this program, you're probably not employed by the government. You won't want to listen to my screed. Unless you've been punished by your union, you've got to monitor this radio program. Then you're paying your other kinds of dues. But right now, if you're the average taxpayer, you have to ask yourself, am I contributing 2% of my salary every year to advance my economic interests? Well, no, you're not. Yeah. And you're not doing it every week.
When you put it that way, it's no wonder that we're at such a disadvantage in California. I mean,
That's
how can
correct.
we compete with that kind of money?
Well, you can't do it at old school.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what we are talking about. So why do we need a California Taxpayers Union? We've been at this a long time. And the best way that I can express it is that we can't expect to beat their union unless and until we have one of our own. And our union has to look very much like theirs. That is, we must be united. We must vote our interests, but above all, and this is going to be on the exam, above all, you have to contribute money every month. It has to be continuous. And that recurring monthly revenue, which is at the heart of some of the most successful businesses in the United States, is at the heart of another successful business called left-wing big government politics, and that is the public employees unions monthly dues that are paid year in and year out. Now, I know I can hear all of you. You've been listening to the radio. Janice. You haven't heard about Janice, Mike. Janice is going to blow them up. No, it isn't. Because a lot of these people belong to these public employee unions, are hardcore public employees, and they're going to continue to pay a lot of those dues because their union delivers for them. And they deliver for them, and the Democrat Party delivers for them in a way in which the Republican Party does not, never has, and doesn't seem about to deliver for you and me. So the only people that are going to deliver for you and me is you out there, and I, and Jonathan, and every other taxpayer.
And it might not be the California Taxpayers Union. But, if there's another group, if the Republican Party is being effective in California, contribute to the Republican Party, right?
Well, yeah, if that happens, right. Yeah, let me know. That's, when they have that, 3 weeks of snow in the Sahara.
Well, there are a handful of groups in California that are effective.
Yeah, support something. But let me tell you.
Howard Jarvis, Carl DeMaio.
Sure. There are good units, and by the way, we do help to support these people as well. Now, I'm going to come back to that. We have a caller here, Dave from Orange County, who has a good example of something, and the screen cut it off. Dave, are you out there?
Hey, Mike, great job you guys are doing. I want to join that union.
All right.
Get into that. Yeah.
All right. Whatever it is that you give. Now, here's what the goal – thank you for calling. Let me tell you what the gold standard is. The gold standard is $1,000 a year. That's
Whoa.
what now hang on. I didn't ask for your firstborn. Whatever people can do.
Hey, sure. So there are people who can do their means, and
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, but whatever it is, do it every month so that we don't have to constantly go out and get that $100, $500, $250, $1,000 a year every time. It costs money to raise money.
Yeah, and
there are people out there, folks. I would encourage you. You can do this. Get on board with this because it's going to pay great dividends, like compound interest, baby. Okay, I want to give you my example, Mike, and I think you'll remember this.
Yes, sir.
If you lived in California in 2006, there was a big grocery store strike, which involved all the major ones. It was Vons, it was Albertsons, and now Vons owns Albertsons, so they're one and the same. And I don't know if it was that way back then, but here's what they did. Here's what I did. I showed up at one of these strikes, okay, at an Albertsons in Whittier, and I wanted to know what they were asking, okay? And get this. This lady said They didn't want to pay a dime into their health care. That's what they were asking. I pay $60 every 2 weeks into my health care plan there, Mike, and plus everything else. This lady said they were demanding that they didn't have to pay anything into their health care plan.
Right. That's right. Now
It's
those,
outrageous.
yeah, it is. Now those are private industry unions, and of course the private employers have the ability to do what they want. But the ones that are really killing us, and you and I could go to another grocery store. We can go to Super King. Some of the Mexican markets are great. There's a lot of smaller chains. Bristol Farms, Trader Joe's, all private and ununionized.
Peter Brothers is unionized, Mike, but they've got a better deal, they told me. I spoke with some of those folks, and they really get down to being with the consumer, Mike. And the other thing is, okay, take a look. Go into a Vons. Go into a Vons, for example, in Whittier. See how many check stands are open. What are they doing? They're making us pay our time for their lack of service to us to save bucks for themselves, for their huge salaries and benefits, okay?
Yeah.
And who's paying the high prices? When you look at Vons and compare their prices with Stater Brothers, I won't go to Vons unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah. Well, one of these times we will talk about the grocery stores in more detail because I'd like to get into this plastic and paper fraud, hustle, and con, which the environmentalists in the cities and the grocery stores have visited upon us. But Dave, to join the union, go there, make a pledge. Yeah, if you got a job, make it $20 a month.
Yeah,
but make it on the first of every month or whatever payday you choose.
Yeah, Dave, you can go to our website tonight, CaliforniaTaxpayersUnion.org. And we have a $20 a month level membership. If you can do that, that'd be great.
Great. And I want to just make another point. Like Mark Levin had mentioned back before the $15 an hour minimum wage passed. Back when they were pushing this before it passed, all over the country, Rush Limbaugh revealed that it was the unions pushing for that. And guess what?
I'll tell you why in a minute. Hey,
guess what happens? They use it as a trigger to increase their union salary.
That's correct. That's correct. Hey, Dave, I got the music going. We're up on a break. Thanks a lot. Go to RadioFreeLosAngeles.net and get signed up as a union member right now. Back in a few seconds. All right, back with you here. Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson. We want to thank Dave for becoming a union member. And he went to accomplish that. He went to RadioFreeLosAngeles.net and signed up there. Dave, we're glad to have you as a member here of our organization. And thank you also for encouraging other listeners to join us. Now, I want to tell you, finish what we were talking about. And by the way, at 9:10 or 9:15, we're going to have a call come in from Mark, I think it's pronounced Meuser, Meuser. He is the Republican candidate for Secretary of State here in California, and he is on a bicycle?
Yeah,
all right.
He's biking around the state, not a motorcycle. A bicycle.
Biking around. So this guy's got guts and endurance.
In July and August.
I know.
I think a total of 5,000 miles.
Okay. Well, at any rate, Secretary of State is a hugely important post here in the state of California, particularly because he is the guy or gal, if it happens to be a gal who's elected, who will actually control voter registration rules, purging our voter rolls throughout the state of dead and improperly, illegally registered voters, and get our voter registration process in line with that of the feds. And he can, and we can ultimately make some progress on this motor voter routine, this automatic registration of voters at the DMV, which I think conflicts with federal law right now. So this guy's candidacy is very important. We'll look forward to hearing from him. We'll talk more. Right now, I'd like to go back to what it is that we were talking about, and what is it that the California Taxpayers Union does? Well, first of all, we're on the radio. We're getting the word out. We're talking about the issues that affect Californians uniquely, the issues that affect us at a state level, whether it's water issues, road issues, building or regulation issues, environmental issues that are shutting down this state, above all, tax issues that affect us at the state, the county, and the local level. Principal among them, this crisis in pensions, increased taxation to support something that'll never get paid off, and of course the other great crisis in California, which is the sad state of public education, which finds itself 48th in the nation. It's just awful what we have going on in the state. Our job at the California Taxpayers Union is to get that word out to you and to become a clearinghouse for political action in this area, to let you know what's going on, and to persuade you that all is not lost. Now, we started talking before Dave came on. We were talking about the amount of money that goes into the unions. Well, that amount is $1 billion per year in dues, $2 billion every election cycle. And they use it to elect people who agree with them, no surprise there, and who deliver bigger government, higher salaries, and better benefits for their union members. That's what they're supposed to do. We have nothing comparable on our side, so we have to create an effective political counterforce. Our job is to function very much as they do, that is, to become advocates of the laws that will protect us. Now, because we cannot and probably don't want to get into the business of trying to buy and sell politicians, our best single strategy is to use the initiative process statewide to make major changes in law. Right now, we want to, again, praise and encourage Carl DeMaio of Reform California and their Stop the Gas Tax. Was it stopthegastax.org or .com?
Well, you can go to reformcalifornia.org.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's easy.
Go to their website, support that that effort, and above all, in November, go to the polls. Don't be battered conservatives here.
And we're going to have an event in Pasadena.
Yes.
A repeal the gas tax event in Pasadena. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Right. Everybody should come to that. That's going to be coming up. And our signature issue here is going to be school choice. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that before the end of the show. But what we want to do is to be a place where we're organized and we have money flowing in. Now, what do you think would happen if we had even 1% of the money that the unions bring in and dues every year?
1% would be what? A million?
It'd be 10 million.
10 million.
Yeah.
10 million.
Yeah, they bring in $1 billion. 10% is 100 million.
Wow.
And 10% of that is 10 million, right?
This state would look a whole lot different.
It would, yeah. Imagine that. And imagine if we went up from that point and we just put on the ballot initiatives that achieve our objectives of limited constitutional government, free men and women, free markets, and limited constitutional government. It is not only at the federal level that we need to get back to the Constitution. It is just as important that we get back to the Constitution at the local level as well and at the county level. This is where they're spending every bit as much as the federal government, and they're impinging every bit as much on our liberties. And you talk about smugness. In attitude, it isn't just Mr. Strzrok and the FBI, the cops in attitude. Have you been to the DMV?
Yeah.
Have you dealt with one of these parking Nazis running around giving you tickets?
It's an attitude. It's almost as if we work for them.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the way Peter Strzrok behaved.
He did. And he's not wrong, is he? No, the way this whole thing is running right now, Strzrok and all these other clowns, they think that they're running this country, and they're fundamentally at war with us. They don't like the Constitution, and the fundamental basis of the Constitution is that the law derives from us, we the people. They don't like that we the people part. They don't want to have anything to do with us. That's why they were complaining about Walmart voters and Walmart people and so forth. He didn't like the smell of them down there. Well, he doesn't like me. He doesn't like you. He doesn't like us. And hey, Pete, we don't like you much either. So it's mutual. But they want to get this country on the cheap. All these people do. And it's high time that we, the people, took back government, but we have to take it back at every level. We have these people. I mean, there's another. You talk about initiatives on the ballot for November. I don't know if you realize it or not, but one of the proposals is going to be to reinstate basically the authority for rent control, which means that if you own property, you'll be fighting with every city and every county and every tenant. Their solution to the housing crisis is going to be to hold the line on rents at your expense, at the expense of the landlord. And this is going to be a decline in maintenance. There won't be any new building, no nothing. It is just absolutely outrageous that we should have this. And there's going to be more taxes on the ballot in November. Now we're on break, coming here just a few seconds, but I have when we get back after our break, we will have Mark Meuser, Republican candidate for Secretary of State. He'll be on with us. Join us at 860-870-5752. All right. Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson back with you here, Radio Free Los Angeles. We now have on line one Mark Meuser, Republican candidate for Secretary of State. Are you there, Mark?
I am here. Can you hear me just fine?
I sure can. You sound great out there. From what we know, somebody called to tell us last week about this crazy candidate for Secretary of State who's running around the state on a bicycle. And, hey, we love this idea. How's it going out there? And what are you learning from the people?
Well, I'm 620 miles in this week. We just finished leg 11, which means I've spoken at 12 different locations, and I'm losing track of how many counties now.
Yeah.
But the plan is to hit all 58 counties. Today was actually one of the hardest, probably top 3 hardest days of the entire tour, and it lived up to its reputation. We had a heat wave up here in Northern California, so in between that and all the mountains I had to climb today, it was a brutal day on the body, you could say that. But this tour has actually been great because I've been talking to people. We have a wrapped RV that's following me around the state, so the team is getting some great conversations. As I am talking to people, we're having some really good conversations, and we've just been able to raise awareness of the issues that we have in the state of California with our elections. I mean, the fact that California has the second worst elections in the United States, according to the Pew Research Center, and Harvard has ranked the United States as having, of the 28 Western democracies in the world, being ranked 28th when it comes to election integrity. So we have a lot of problems with our elections in this in this nation, but more
Right.
particularly in the state. And so riding my bike has caused people to stop and pay attention who normally would not pay attention to this issue.
Yes. Well, Mark, I think you ought to just give up this trip because from what we understand, the Russians are the problem. All right.
Well,
so there's nothing you could do, man. Those Russians are out there. They're I guess they're tapping phones and going into computers and everything else. Of course, we know that the real problem is that our major election systems in the large states and cities throughout this country are run by old-line Democrats. There's the big problem.
Just about last month, the Secretary of State of Missouri was testifying before Congress, and he actually came out and said there is zero evidence that a single vote has been changed as a result of hacking,
right.
Russians or anywhere, but there is plenty of evidence of election fraud. Yet because it's not sexy, you don't see the DAs and the attorney generals bringing all that many lawsuits on it. And, the evidence is there. It's just they're choosing not to do anything with it.
Well, that's right, yeah. And of course, although it's a dubious source of anything, we have Barack Obama's own word in December, I believe, of 2016, when he got on television and assured everybody that no foreign actor, and I don't even know if he mentioned the Russians, but nobody had hacked the system. And in fact, those guys were trying to get the various secretaries of state and many of the county authorities to open up their election systems, that is their computers, to the federal government, and they refused to allow Obama's people to get into their computers. They say, we're just fine. Our systems are secure. So this whole thing stinks to high heaven. It always was a canard, and they're keeping it up. But let me ask you this, Mark. What else are you hearing out there from people in California? I know that you're focusing on the voting system and so forth, but there's a lot in Europe and Northern California, which is conservative. What are their other complaints?
Well, there's a lot of people out there who are really frustrated with the gas tax and with the sanctuary state issue.
Yes.
And those issues have really awakened a lot of Californians. I've actually, about a month ago, there was a poll that came out that said 45% of California Democrats don't like the direction the state is going.
Right.
And I have found that it's been very effective that when I'm talking to people who are not natural allies of mine, that rather than me getting out there and telling them all the problems, I start by asking them questions. And, what problems do you have with your elections? What problems do you have with your government?
Yes.
Open-ended questions, and invariably they're going to say something that I can then latch on and say, hey, that's why I'm running for Secretary of State, or that's what the Republicans believe. And I've seen a lot of people's eyes open up and go, because they didn't quite realize that some of the issues that they have, that maybe they shouldn't be voting for the same old people who have caused the problem.
That's right. There's a huge difference between the average Democrat and the average elected Democrat. The Democrat Party is a very different beast. Just like our own Republican Party at the national level is the party of big government, whereas out here in California, most Republicans are very conservative, and they want smaller government. So what we have in common with Democrats is a wide gap between us and those who run our parties. And I think that guys like you and organizations like ours can reach out to the average Californian who is a registered Democrat. We can reach out to them on issues, even though we may not be able to reach out on party. But if we can join together on issues that affect families, and what affects them is high taxes, what affects them is poor education with no alternative. Those are things that we can talk to them about because whether we like it or not, we share a future with everybody in this state, both legal and illegal, Republican and Democrat, and of whatever national origin. We're going to have to find ways to fix the state, and I think it's only citizens and cutting-edge politicians like you, Mark, that can help us get this job done.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
And we can't do it. And we can't do it, ladies and gentlemen, without full integrity in the election system. And to get that, we have to have a man of great integrity at the top of the process. There must be somebody reliable at the Secretary of State position, and that is Mark. And I'm pronouncing your name correctly, right? Meuser? Meuser. Mark, would you tell them where to go to support you?
They can go to my website, markmeuser.com, markmeuser.com. If they want to follow the venture, they could see me on Instagram, Facebook, and to some extent Twitter. So Facebook and Instagram are getting most of the pictures that I'm taking as I'm touring the state of California on my bicycle. But my website has all of our stops, and keep checking there and finding out when I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. But
perfect.
This tour is going to be ending in the Southern California range late in August. So
all right. Well, call us next Sunday night. Give us an update. Let us know what Californians are thinking. I think what you're doing is hugely important, and nothing bad happens when you talk with voters or customers. Mark, thanks so much for being on tonight, and that's markmeuser.com, markmeuser.com. Thanks, Mark. All right, we now have next on the line Margaret from Newport Beach. When it's appropriate to talk, she says.
Hello.
All right, Margaret, thanks for joining us. What's on your mind tonight?
Thank you for taking my call. Is Mike Alexander, the one that is in there with you, is his relatives from Indiana?
No, this is Mike Alexander talking, and my relatives are not from Indiana. Originally, at least on the Alexander side, from Missouri. And my father hails from Laclede, Missouri, and whose second most famous resident is General Pershing. That's where he came from, was Laclede, Missouri. So Laclede, Missouri, and my old man. Excuse me, General Pershing and my old man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they were big Republicans. We were Republicans back then, and I'm older, and I remember I like Ike. But when you started the program tonight, you started saying kind of what you thought was a right time to speak politics and not a right time.
Yes.
But, I think every time is right. I have got a sign made. I have a walker now. And on my sign, on my walker in the front, it says Governor Cox. And Governor Cox, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, man, you got wheels. Get out of your way. Here comes Maggie.
And when Trump was running, I was so happy he started, that he threw his hat in the ring, that I went and I had a shirt embroidered President Trump. Yeah. And I had a hat embroidered President Trump, and I went to his thing here in Costa Mesa.
Well, that's great. Well, you reach an age where you paid your dues and then some, and other people can just pay attention. That reminds me, how many seconds we got here? I got about 1 minute here. Reminds me of my mother, who one time said in frustration, she went into some kind of a rant over something, and she said something to the effect that, I'm tired of holding back, right? Now, that caused us to laugh uproariously because none of us could remember ever when my mother had held back about saying anything. But at any rate, if you ever held back in your life, Margaret, you no longer have to.
No, I don't do that. But I'm saying we should get the pins out I think we should let people know what we're for.
Oh, totally with you. The other side does it. Hey, quick question, Margaret. Yes. I only got a few seconds. How long have you been listening to the program, and what do you like about it?
Well, I like that you tell the truth, and I like that people should hear that. And so I listen to your program all the time, quite a bit.
Okay. Well, we're glad to have you. You know, our show is young, but we believe that we're building our audience here. It's always nice to get a little feedback. It's wonderful hearing from you. Don't be a stranger.
No, I won't be. And I am so glad that President Trump's in. I celebrate all the time. I'm going to celebrate when Governor Cox in. Everybody knows me in Newport. My last name is yes, and my last name is Wolf, and I go all over with my walker, and I enjoy you very, very much. But I don't think there's a right time to talk politics. I think that's a bunch of hooey.
All right. Hey, Margaret, dear, I got to run. That's the end of the show. This is Jonathan Wilson and Mike Alexander thanking you for joining us. RadioFreeLosAngeles.net. Go there and join. And Margaret, if you got $1 left over, send us $1 a month. We'll take it, and we will not stop talking. Anytime's a good time, especially 8 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. on Sunday night. See you next week.